We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.
Good morning, and welcome to another version of the Friday Farcast. It's a little bit different. It's an hour later, and it's only an hour. So if you're there and you are a regular listener and you picked up on this, thank you for picking up on it. I appreciate that. The reason why today's show is an hour later because my son had surgery today, and I had to be there for him when he got out of surgery. So it wasn't anything too major, but everything went well, and I just needed the extra time to be able to do what dads do, which is meet their kids when they come out of surgery. We are into 6 days. I just cleaned my house, and this is part of the new thing for the new year. I cleaned my house. I did a major feng shui thing, and I have to say, a rice cake at about 9 o'clock last night has it's actually sabotaged my cleaning efforts. Now that I look around my desk and see the remnants of the rice cake. Rice cakes are one of those funny things. You eat it, and you think you're eating the whole thing, but it's like you're not. There's always a part of that rice cake that goes somewhere. It's kind of like Legos. I'm sure there are parents out there with kids that have had Legos. And I remember when I was a kid, Legos were just like maybe 1 or 2 sizes, maybe 3. That was it. Now Legos it's like this complex universe in all these sizes and shapes, and it's kind of cool in some ways. But the thing is that the little tiny Lego pieces, you kind of miss until you step on them. And you're walking across the floor at night, maybe you're getting up, going to the bathroom, and all of a sudden, you get, a jagged little Lego piece in your heel at 2 a.m., and then you realize that the people at Legos are sadists, and that they're just there to have this experience. They're in a room somewhere wringing their hands, saying, "We got another one." But the rice cake is like it's like the food equivalent of the Lego. Although when I step on the rice cake remnant, it just crumples it up even more. It doesn't really hurt me. I'm not sure what the food equivalent of something hard from a Lego would be. Maybe I don't want to know. So it's the 6th of January. Welcome to 2012. Welcome to the first show. The year is getting off to a very intense start. I don't know if you're paying attention, really paying attention. just before the end of the year, Barack Obama, whoever he is, signed the NDAA, formerly known as SB 1867, into act, and now everybody is under suspicion. Well, we're always under suspicion, but now it's official, and anything can happen at any time. It's Argentina in the 80s, ladies and gentlemen. This is what it's becoming, with very little fanfare at all, by the way. Very little. Not many people speaking out about it. On the internet, sure, but the internet is like the voice in the wilderness. You know, the cranks on the internet. And but you know, where's Pat Buchanan? You know, where is the press? Where's Dennis Kucinich? Did Dennis vote for this, by the way? I'd like to know. And they just ran that thing right through, didn't they? Anyway, it doesn't bode well. Obama started the Counterterrorism Bureau now, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, DHS showed up at a Social Security office in Florida either yesterday or the day before with semi-automatic rifles and all kinds of crazy stuff, you know, asking people to show their papers. I mean, you know what's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. I hate to say this, but they're going to start doing more and more of these kind of Viper checkpoints. And if people don't comply, guess what? NDAA. It's like, see that van over there? Get in. That's what's going to happen. Because now there is no such thing as you don't have a constitutional right. You can't say, my constitutional rights don't allow me. They allow me to not show you my license or identification. Say, sorry, buddy. You know, have you read the news lately? Get in the van. That's where it's at. So that happened just before the end of the new year. I don't know if you're following what's happening over in Iran, but there's a lot of strutting going on in Iran right now with the U.S. Navy in the Strait of Hormuz and Iranians firing missiles as a show of strength. We also have reports that the armed forces now are stationed in Israel, and it could get very heavy very quickly. And the end result, or the immediate result, not even the end result, but the immediate result of a U.S./NATO/Israel/Iran conflict, throw Syria into the mix too. You may as well just, you know, go for the daily double over there. That gas prices would probably get upwards of $5 a gallon. And as a result of that, food prices would skyrocket as well. You know, gallon of milk probably pay $6, $7, $8 for a gallon. I'm serious. And this would be the immediate effect of a war with Iran. Now, on the plus side, if you are in the futures market and you're playing oil as a speculative option or commodity, there's a good chance you're going to make your money. You're going to hit your spike price. This is what happens in a world where, unfortunately, there is not a lot of building and construction going on. You look at one of the reasons why Europe is having a problem, besides the fact that they started to trade on currencies that were no longer escalating, or besides the fact that they were trading on debts that were cancerous and toxic that nobody would ever be able to recover on. Besides all that, the reason Europe is in trouble is because they don't build anything. There's no building going on. There's no construction. There's no new infrastructure. Europe has hit an apex in terms of being built out. In fact, Europe hit its apex probably somewhere between probably about 1965 to 1975. That was it. There's a lot of war. There was a lot of, reconstruction after the war, in Western Europe, in France, in Germany, England, parts of Italy, parts of Spain. But once that was done, it was done. So there's no more construction going on in the western part of Europe. Now, you could have construction going on in the Balkan region. But, the thing with these economies is that they don't want them to kind of outstrip the pace of the social systems. So they don't want to, steroidally advance an economy unless it's in their best interest, which is what they're doing with Brazil and Russia to some extent, India, China. Those are the BRIC countries, and certainly Brazil and China and India are getting massive amounts of cash infusion and infrastructure development because they're behind the curve. And what happens when everybody's up pretty much on the same page, on the same level? This country over here has been brought down, this country over here has been brought up, everybody's kind of flatlined, then what? I guess you have another war, and then you knock shit out and build shit up all over again. That's, I guess, instead of moving on to the next cycle, really the next evolutionary cycle, which we could all be moving on to, theoretically, without any of this outside interference, we have to take it back to rubble, take it back to the Stone Age, and build it back up again. Instead of evolve, and that's the alternative model, but it's not being allowed to blossom. It's been about 3,000 years. We keep getting these cycles. People say it's humanity, it's human nature. I know human nature. Human nature is not bad. You get two people together, and you get people with kids together, and they have a common language, they have common dreams, common hopes, common wishes, common desires. And, there's probably a pretty good chance that, that people work it out. It's when we get hammered with all the outside interference and the noise and the static, which distorts our signal, and we see people through a distorted lens. We see people in ways that aren't necessarily real. And that can go both ways, too. It could be somebody who is a complete and utter psychopath that you think is a great guy. Great guy. Well, maybe they're really not such a great guy after all. But, if you can live congruently, you can kind of see through that. It takes a little bit more of a focus, but you can see through it. Sometimes the most despicable people aren't always that despicable at all. It's just the way it is. Speaking of seeing what's real and what's not real, I've been some of you who know me, who follow the show, follow my website, know that I'm fascinated by doppelgangers and clones. I'm absolutely, utterly fascinated by it. Now, I've been fascinated for a very long time, actually. And last year, I did a big piece on Tiger Woods, which remains to date the most visited, read, trafficked post on my site ever. And my contention is Tiger Woods is a clone. He's been replaced. And I still, by the way, am I stand by that. The guy can't golf anymore. He's robotic. He's a shell of himself. By the way, his $12 million house where he used to live, which is now owned by Eileen Nordgren, was leveled by her. She took a bulldozer to it, leveled it. Now, there's nothing wrong with the house. Maybe there were things in the house that they didn't want people to know about, but maybe nobody just wanted to buy the house. I don't know, but it's gone. $12 million, 8 rooms, 5 bathrooms, gone, done. That happened just the other day. So anyway, the whole doppelganger, double clone thing is getting really explored. Actors getting really explored by Ed Sheeran, a.k.a. Dallas Goldbug. And one of the things that he's just come out with recently, in fact, he's had most of his YouTube videos removed, by the way. They took his videos down. Blip TV took his videos down. He's having problems with his website. So there may be something there. And if you're not familiar with him, Well Aware One is the website. And the funny thing about him is he's worked for Halliburton. Okay, he's worked for the man. He's got you go to his website or his YouTube page. I don't know if it's still up anymore, but it lists at least he's open with it. At least he's being transparent with who he's worked for. But he's been doing media for insider groups and corporations for years. So keep that in mind when you look at his stuff. And what he does basically, his premise is that that reality is being massaged by a group of people, and they have offspring, and then their offspring play various roles, a number of roles. Like they're not just one person. And by doing this, they can stage events, and they can have all kinds of fake news, fake entertainment, fake crisis. That's all, that's his premise. And some of the examples that he has are actually pretty startling, to be honest with you. Some of you may know who the Truther Girls are. I've seen the Truther Girls. Quite frankly, I think the Truther Girls are boring. They're boring. They're just boring. I don't think they're compelling. There's nothing about the Truther. Whoever they are, I've never linked to them. There's nothing really that interesting about the Truther Girls. Anyway, Ed Shiriani says that the Truther Girls are actually Bristol Palin and Tina Fey. And he goes through everything. He just look at the earlobe, look at the septum, look at all the what is it, the fetrum, blah 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 blah. So that's his theory. He has another theory, which is quite interesting, and he's not the only one. And I'm going to post this. I've got a link here that I'm going to put in the where's the chat room? I got to find the chat room. Where'd you go, chat room? Where's my chat room? There's my chat room. Okay. So here's my chat room, and I'm putting this link in. You can check this out if you want. This is not him, but there are other people who are saying that Lady Gaga is Amy Winehouse. Dionysus is asking me, could I make the astrological correlation between these philanthropic, economic, political events? I could, Dionysus, but I'm not necessarily sure I want to go through it right now. I'm just checking in with the chat room. Right now I'm into the Doppelgangers. Yes, Amy Winehouse, Lady Gaga. What's really interesting, okay, is and as I've looked back now on Winehouse, and you see photos of her or interviews of her that look like she's a junkie or look like she's strung out, they are not sequential, okay? Because theoretically, the last interview of Lady Gaga, I'm sorry, of Amy Winehouse that I saw, she actually looked really good, okay? And then if you go back and you look at, decrepit pictures of her from other, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, it looks like a different person, really. Like maybe she's made up. I'll tell you a story. Let me give you a story. Here's when I interviewed David Bowie, okay? Here I am. I'm sitting in the boardroom of Virgin Records, and Bowie walks in, and he's got his teeth. They're all fucked up. He's zombified. It's like, who is this guy? I thought I was interviewing David Bowie. And then he sat down and he just stared off into space after he kind of robotically shook my hand. And then he whipped the plastic teeth out of his mouth and slammed his hand down on the table. And he said, unflappable. I like that. But what was really funny was that, here's Bowie as somebody else, and I never really made the connection. And I'm not saying he is somebody else. But the fact that these people can put masks on at any time is fascinating. So then I dropped down into the rabbit hole a little bit more. And I began to look at other examples of people, theoretically, that look like one another. Okay, I'm gonna give you a few. All right, here we go. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Heath Ledger. Just write them down and go look at it. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Heath Ledger. Zooey Deschanel and Katy Perry. Zooey Deschanel and Katy Perry are essentially the same person. Look at them. Look at them. Here's another interesting one. Are you ready? Cate Blanchett, Tilda Swinton, Tori Amos. Look at all three of them. Cate Blanchett, Tilda Swinton, Tori Amos. What's interesting, right, is Tilda Swinton, you never see her made up. Never. She's always got this blanched face, right, and the red hair, and the kind of the pale zombie eyes, right? And then you put Cate Blanchett and Tori Amos side by side, and I swear to God, they are the same. They're the same person almost. But check out Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Heath Ledger. Your mind will be blown. Now, are they the same person? I don't know. But it would be. It's interesting, right? It's like Heath Ledger dies, bang, Joseph Gordon-Levitt pops up. And guess what? I believe he's going to be in the new Dark Knight. So anyway, I've gotten into the whole doppelganger thing. Absolutely, utterly fascinating. And that was just over the past couple of days. So what does that mean? So what is reality? You know, what is reality? You know, can we even like bank on reality anymore as we've known it? I'm not so sure. It's a fascinating little exercise, a little discourse in what's real and what's not real. And there actually is there's a lot of leeway, I think, in reality. If you go to my website, I just put up a new post. Speaking of reality, I put up a post on. It was kind of a continuation of what we were talking about on Wednesday. And what I was talking about on Wednesday was this whole Pluto and Scorpio effect from generation to generation to generation, and how there are the cultural mythos that drive and even program us. And I'm going to say that without a question mark or without ellipses or whatever. You know, it's like when I look at something like Harry Potter, or when I look at something like the Hunger Games, and I see specifically how they are carved out for a particular generation, born under a particular Plutonian aspect, I can't help but think that there is some conscious effort going into the what I would call psychic driving of a generation. That there is an occult top-down messaging that is really based on the outer planets. That's my theory. And some people would say, "Oh, this comes out of the collective unconscious, and these are the myths that we spawn." And you know, I'm not adverse to that. I do believe that you know, there's this very interesting flux with reality where those things do occur. There are, you know, culturally significant moments. Like for instance, again, let's go back to astrology, Pluto and Sagittarius. You know, what happened towards the end of Pluto and Sagittarius? You had steroids, the big steroid scandal in baseball. The steroids are still in sports, by the way. But, you know, what is Sagittarius? Sagittarius is sports. Sports. It's the sign most associated with sports. And what is Pluto? Pluto is sort of the dark underbelly, right? It's drugs. Pluto's drugs. And what are steroids? Drugs. So we saw, in baseball, in sports, from basically 2003 on, the ugly specter of steroids get played out. Another aspect of Pluto and Sagittarius would be the hardcore fundamentalism of Islam, the hardcore fundamentalism of Christianity, even the hardcore fundamentalism of Judaism, all rising to the surface during Pluto and Sagittarius. Now, is that scripted out somewhere? Do the Muslims sit around and and look at an ephemeris and say, "Hey, it's Pluto and Sagittarius. Let's take our game to the next level"? I don't think so. I think some of these things are organic, and that they are sort of forces that are coagulating and merging, and and it's kind of a cosmic brew, so to speak, from the collective unconscious, our collective will, the new sphere, however you want to term it. But then I also think that there are conscious efforts, there are conscious manipulations of people that are very, very knowledgeable about what's happening astrologically. And astrology is one of those things where it's just been dumped into like the devil bin. Oh, you believe in astrology, you're going to hell. Oh, you believe in astrology and you're not believing in the will of God and all that stuff, right? Well, I don't necessarily believe that either. I don't. My philosophy is the kitchen sink. If it works, use it. But you've always got to check it. You've always got to check your intention and highest good and all that. But that's my philosophy. Anyway, you can go to my website and you can read my latest blog post. I tell you, the one blog post that has really brought up, been very polarizing is my post on Ron Paul. I had some very strong opinions come out against Ron Paul. And, I did not do that post to support Ron Paul. I tried to be as neutral as I could and say what I liked about him and what I thought could be very troubling about him. And I did my best to use the rectified chart in order to draw those things out. And not everybody was really, I think, focusing on the astrological part. They were like, he's gonna end abortions in America. He's gonna end funding of Planned Parenthood. I can't vote for him. No, it's regressive. States' rights. No, screw that. It's like, well, look at the astrology. What does the astrology say? Try to look at it from that angle. But it was a very polarizing post. And it's like, well, what's the other options? I have a reader, Abra, been reading me for a long time. I love her. And she says, I would not vote or give any money. I'd give money to Elizabeth Warren or Dennis Kucinich. Those are the only two names that pop to mind. And it's like, well, I didn't see those people's names on the ballot. I mean, look, unless somebody jumps out from the independent space and, wants to save the day, we got what we got in this thing, and we know that elections can be thrown, and they have been. So even if somebody that we really liked and really wanted to be in there got in there, there's no guarantee that they would make run the election gauntlet and get through it. We saw that with Gore. We certainly saw that with Kerry. Total setup with Kerry. Howard Dean was another person she mentioned. Have you noticed Howard Dean hasn't come anywhere near running for president, right? Nowhere near it. He didn't run last time. It was like in basketball, there's a play in basketball. There are 5 players on the court, and they have this one play. It's called a clear out. And it's when 4 of the players are on one side of the court, and they leave the other side of the court for the other player to go one-on-one and try to score a basket. They basically did a clear out for Barack Obama. Hillary Clinton kind of said, I want the ball too. Give me the ball. Let me take the last shot. But they managed to, steer her away. But there was no Howard Dean there. And you know what? There's no Howard Dean in this election. And Howard Dean was very close until, of course, the media decided that they wanted to turn him into a buffoon. But he's not there. So what do we got? Well, you got Obama. You know what you're going to get with Obama, and you're going to get more of the same, and it's not going to be pretty. This is not. If you've seen what you've seen, you're going to get more of the same. The only change is to be changed for the worse. I'm sorry. Then you've got Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney is, he's a cousin of the Bushes. Bain Capital, connected to the Carlyle Group, dyed-in-the-wool insider, bloodline. He's got the bloodline. Theoretically, he's got the bloodline. He's electable based on the bloodline. He'll bring back Michael Chertoff, by the way. He's already said that. So a vote for Mitt Romney is a vote for Michael Chertoff. And then what do you got? Then we have, there's Rick Santorum. You notice how Rick Santorum was nowhere? And then all of a sudden, like 2 days before Iowa or 3 days before Iowa, it was Rick Santorum. Oh, now it's Iowa's Rick Santorum's time. Rick Santorum is maybe just a step or two to the left of Benito Mussolini. I mean, Rick Santorum has basically said he'll go to war anytime, any day, anywhere with anyone. He's an intelligent designer. He lost his state. He was voted one of the most corrupt senators in 2006. Rick Santorum. Michelle Bachmann, she dropped out. What can you say about Michelle Bachmann? That hasn't already been said. Has some interesting thoughts, but all over the place, and certainly not trustworthy. She signed the NDAA. So, proof in the pudding. Do you want a person that signed off on that? Who else is left? Newt Gingrich. Newt had his 5 minutes. He's got too many skeletons. And again, a new age techno-fascist. Do you really want to vote for him? Yeah. Well, that leaves Rick Perry. Rick Perry buffooned his way out of this race. Rick Perry, if the powers that be had deemed Rick Perry electable, he might have had a shot. He looks presidential, but he couldn't carry the water, which is ironic because he's a Pisces. Couldn't carry the water. Now who does that leave? Well, it leaves Ron Paul and John Huntsman. Remember the name John Huntsman. Just keep that name in mind, okay? Keep Huntsman in mind. He hasn't dropped out of the race. He is he won't appeal. Let me tell you, he will not appeal to the GOP. Huntsman is very liberal for a Republican. He will also basically do what everybody else has vowed to do, which is go to war anytime, anywhere, which a lot of the Republican Party like. I think it's a great thing, I guess. But he's one of these guys that if the GOP and if the powers that be decided that they wanted to remove Obama and have a quote-unquote clean election without people going nuts, that he could theoretically beat Obama because Romney could beat Obama based on the Republican. I'm pretty convinced of that. But Huntsman could beat Obama based on not just the Republican vote, but he could also probably get swing Democrats. But he's just going to be more of the same. So who does that leave? Leaves Ron Paul. Ron Paul, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with his politics or not, he is the one candidate that has a platform that is consistent. Everybody else sort of bends with the wind and goes with the prevailing tides. Ron Paul does not. Now, you may not like his program, but he doesn't go, he's got a program, trust me, it's there. He knows exactly what he wants to do. And he's above board with probably about 70% of it. The issue with Paul, and as I stated on my website, is that the Austrian School of Economics it really celebrates the individual, okay? And you would think that that's a good thing. But if the individual is not a very good person, then what? You know what I mean? It's like there's no inherent sense of morality associated with the Austrian School of Economics or praxology, which is a study that it's based on, save the fact that the morality is tied to some form of material correspondence, meaning you can't go beyond whatever material resources or assets that are available. It's a check and balance in the Austrian School of Economics system. It's a check and balance. If you go beyond what you have at your disposal, you are living in the realm of abstraction, which is, you can't do it. It's just not part of the order or the dictum. But that's it. I mean, you could be a shitty person and still live within those bounds. You could theoretically screw people and still live within those bounds. You could be extremely rich and other people could be extremely poor and still live within those bounds. So there's no guarantee that the Austrian school model would pull us out of this place. But what Paul would guarantee is that there would be no more wars or useless wars. He would guarantee that. And he would guarantee a lot of personal rights and freedoms. So it'd be a trade-off, right? I mean, you would say, okay, well, you know, marijuana is legal, a lot of drugs are legal, all the people that are incarcerated for drug-related offenses will get pardoned. And he said he would pardon them, by the way, because they're dragging the system. So so that's a trade-off. Like, you get all that stuff. But the other trade-off is that, you know, corporations can go buck naked, hog wild, and you got to compete with them as an individual. That's it. So that's a potential reality. Would you take that trade-off, or would you go to the model now where everything is shrinking, kind of accordingly until there's really nothing left? You know, the Paul model is kind of an all or nothing model, really. But those are our choices. Those are our choices. You know, so I was thinking of the Ron Paul piece, because when you look at the Austrian School of Economics, to me, it almost, you know, goes right to the heart of, you know, like Freemasonry and individuality and the individual will and all that stuff, right? That's what. So then I thought to myself, well, that's really Luciferian. It is a Luciferian philosophy. It's the individual. There's no God, there's no creator, there's no divine principle, nothing. It's the individual. And some people would say, hey, I can live with that, you know, I'm an agnostic, whatever, bring it on. But classic terms, it's Luciferian. I'm not putting a label on it. I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just telling you it's Luciferian. So then I thought about it. Okay, well, right. Luciferianism seeks to liberate man from form. That's what it is. Liberate man from form. Use form, use matter, but it's the liberation. It's liberation beyond systems. It's like, here you go, you got a wide open playing field, not a lot of rules, not a lot of government intervention or controls. Go create something. Go be free. Do what you do best. Which is kind of what was, you know, when people, I tell you, the president who will come closest to Ron Paul is Ronald Reagan. Reagan started off kind of as a libertarian candidate in his own way. He appealed to a group of voters, who were kind of coming out of the human potential 70s and the boomers. He appealed to them. He totally appealed to them. They were called something in values, lifestyles and values. The lifestyles and values demographic, as assigned to them by SRI, Stanford Research Institute. They nailed down this demographic, and everything that Reagan did in his run-up to the election was messaging to that demographic. You go live your life. Let us do this. We're going to bring taxes down. We're going to deregulate. We're going to make it easier for you to do what you do, which is be free, innovate, spend, blah, 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 blah. And Ron Paul's like that. Ron Paul will continue the deregulation of the Reagan era. There's no doubt in my mind. But again, what's the trade-off? Will you have more rights, more freedom in order, let's put it this way. Let me ask you a question, okay? Philosophical question. If somebody said to you, guess what? You can, we can eliminate the TSA, which means you can go through customs anytime you want. Not customs, security, with minimal intrusion. We're going to eliminate the Department of Homeland Security. We're going to eliminate all these checkpoints. We're going to get rid of the NDAA. We're going to take away this oppressive blanket that is, getting pulled up, over the, up to the neck and the nose of the American public. We're going to take all that away. You can have medicinal marijuana. In fact, maybe we can even grow hemp. How about that? Would you like that? But here is some of the other things that you're going to have to maybe think about. You're going to have to think about, well, we're not going to have any more government intervention in building roads or, helping people. There will be no social contract at that point. A lot of the departments that have, stood for the social contract will go away. Unions gone. They'll be gone. They would be gone under Ron Paul. Trust me on this. But then you get all this other stuff, right? So it's like a trade-off. Would you be willing to live with that trade-off? And can you have both? Because that's kind of what we're looking at, right? I think. It's an either-or situation. Anyway, I was thinking about this whole thing about the Austrian School of Economics and being Luciferian. And I thought, well, what is the Keynesian School of Economics or the Friedman School of Economics? Well, that's when you have debt, right? That's when you have debt. So if the Austrian school wants to liberate you, theoretically, from form, what does the other school do? It doesn't want to liberate you. It wants to encumber you. So one is about releasing form so that the gravity of the individual can be lessened and it can rise, theoretically, like Prometheus, whereas the other system keeps the burden of debt on top of the individual, creating a sense of crushing gravity. That is binding the individual into form. And then for me, I thought, well, that's satanic. That's satanic. And then it became clear to me the difference between Luciferianism and Satanism. One seeks to liberate the individual and have it rise to the level of being equal to God, without God, by the way. The other seeks to enchain the individual, enslave the individual, and then have the individual do the bidding of those doing the enslaving and the enchaining. Locked into form, subservience, right? Selling your soul for material pleasure and gain. Locked into form. So then I thought about this whole concept of the law of one and the sons of Belial, which I've talked about on my website. Law of one theoretically being, and I've heard it flip from, depending on who you talk to, Law of one being the Orions, sons of Belial, the Syrians, or you can flip the script and have it the other way around. But essentially, two warring factions coming to Earth, having this, battle in the stars, fallen angels, Lucifer coming to Atlantis, starting Atlantis. One group of Atlantis is, hey, let the people rule, let them do what they want to do, let's empower them. That's the law of one, and I'm assuming that's the Luciferian faction. Then you have the sons of Belial, which is they can't even wipe their asses without us. They're nothing but cattle. Let's run them. Well, that's the sons of Belial, and that's the satanic model, theoretically. And I began to look at this on a lot of different terms, and I began to look at it in terms of, pop culture, which, by the way, would make Ron Paul a law of one candidate, which makes total sense, and everybody else would be a candidate of the sons of Belial. Think about that. I believe that that's the case. Then I thought about pop culture. And I thought about music. Like, well, who's Luciferian and who's satanic? Right? And the first thing that popped in my mind, which was the most, clear example, was the Beatles and the Stones. You think about it, right? The Beatles are fill in the blank. The Stones are fill in the blank. The Beatles are Luciferian. They're total Luciferian. It's all, everything about the Beatles was transcendent. Sun, 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 here it comes. There's a lot of darkness to the Beatles too, but they are the Luciferian model, the law of one, raising everybody up, Aquarian consciousness, right? The Stones, what was one of their records? Their Satanic Majesty's Request. Here you got the devils, and here you've got the fallen angels, basically dominating the pop charts for decades, really. Pleased to meet you, won't you guess my name, So who else? What else is there in terms of Lucifer, Satan, how the breakdown between the two in art and in culture? They're out there. And I think that's what happens. I think we're given these choices, right? We're given these choices, and it's like we think we're getting solutions, and we're not. We're getting something very different. Very, very different. We're getting scripts or programs that are ancient. And so I ask you, because I'm figuring this out myself, right? I mean, we're all on this journey together. I ask you, is there something different? I mean, theoretically, Christianity might have been that something different. Not the Christianity that we know. By the way, if you ever go to Jeff Rentz, you should check out the latest thing from Ted Pike. It'll blow your mind. And it is not Ted Pike is he's a rabid anti-Zionist preacher, and his wife just died, committed suicide, and he chronicles in details the demonic possession of his wife over the course of the last 10 years, which blows my mind. But anyway, you can read about that. Anyway, well, is Christianity the third option? Again, not the Christianity that we know. Something very different. Was that the third option? Or was Christianity created by one of those other two groups? Is Christianity, as we know it, kind of the franchise of the sons of Belial? And what about the other major religions? Islam, Islam probably is again a created entity in order to steer people in a particular direction based on some ancient predilection and program. And if time-space does not exist, which we know it really doesn't, maybe they're able to look into a particular timeline and say, hey, look, we want this model, we want this model, we want this model, let's set them up, roll them out, and we'll get continued results and lock the timeline in place for a very long period of time. But there's got to be something different and something new besides these choices. And I think we're seeing this get played out in the presidential, primary and ultimately the election here. And the wild card is something new, something different beyond these two choices. Or because even if you get it down to light or dark, what is the light? What is the light? The light is like this kind of Luciferian light. It's not really, kind of the light that, that is this pure light, this pure, untainted light of truth that is not bent or shaped or manipulated in order to have an outcome. It is just this, this piercing light that it's not that light. But we are getting a version of light. Anyway, food for thought. Let's see, next week I'll have the Monday show, Wednesday show, and I'm going to get back up to the 2-hour show on Friday, and hopefully I will have a guest. Somebody pitched an angel quantum healing author my way. Maybe I'll see if I can get them on next Friday. If you want to hear about angel quantum healing, let me know in the chat room. Because this is kind of like your show too. I mean, if you have guests you want me to interview, feel free to either email me or leave a comment in the show box, or let me know in the chat room. Erica's suggested a few people, which I need to follow up on. But if there's somebody you want me to talk to, and they want to talk to me, I'll be happy to talk to them. So anyway, I will endeavor to have another guest on Friday next week, or a guest. I'm going to be doing predictions. I've been on the fence with predictions. I did some. I didn't do any. I think I did some last year. Now I thought I was pretty on. I did predict global riots. I did predict that, by the way. I'll find it. I'm going to go find my predictions from 2010. But I'm going to be doing some predictions over the weekend. Just because I like to test myself. I'd like to see just how accurate I can be with things. I like to live on the edge. Although my edge life has not been that edgy lately, trust me. Okay, that's it. I've run out of things to say, and I'm not gonna pad my 60 allotted minutes here at Blog Talk Radio any further. So I want to thank everybody for supporting the show and being here today, listening to me in real time, or if you're hearing me on YouTube, thank you for listening to me. It's a pleasure to meet you, even if I haven't physically met you. Thank you for listening. And Happy New Year. It's 2012. It's 2012. We're here. And look, hopefully we'll be here in 2013. I have a feeling we will be. Maybe a little different, but I have a feeling we will be. Don't give up the ship. All right. Use your head. Your head. To discern what's real, your heart to stay open what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. I've been your host. Have a absolutely great weekend. I'll see you on Monday.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words, I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this. Such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.